millions of Negro slaves who had been seared in the flames of withering injustice. It came as a joyous daybreak to end the long night of their captivity. But 100 years later, the Negro is still. 100 years later, the life of the Negro is still badly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, the Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. 100 years later, the Negro still languishes in the corners of American society and finds himself in exile in his own land. So, we've come here today to dramatize a shameful condition. In a sense, we've come to our nation's capital to cash a check. When the architects of our republic wrote the magnificent word of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence, they were signing a promissory note to which every American was to fall heir. This note was to promise that all men, yes, black as well as white men, would be guaranteed the unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It is obvious today that America has defaulted on this promissory note insofar as her citizens of color are concerned. Instead of honoring this sacred obligation, America has given the Negro people a bad check, a check which has come back marked insufficient funds. But we refuse to believe that the Bank of Justice is bankrupt. We refuse to believe that there are insufficient funds in the great vaults of opportunity of this nation. So we've come to cash this check, a check that will give us upon demand the riches of freedom and the security of justice. We have also come to this hallowed spot to remind America of the fierce urgency of now. This is no time to engage in the luxury of cooling off or to take the tranquilizing drug of gradualism. Now is the time to make real the promise of democracy. Now is the time to rise from the dark and desolate valley of segregation to the sunlit path of racial justice. Now is the time to lift our nation from the quicksands of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. Now is the time to make justice a reality for all God's children. It would be fatal for a nation to overlook the urgency of the moment. This sweltering summer of the Negro's legitimate discontent will not pass until there is an invigorating arm of freedom and equality. 1963, 2020 is not the end, but a beginning. Those who hope that the Negro needed to blow off steam and will now be content will have a rude awakening if the nation returns to business as usual. There will neither be rest nor tranquility in America until the Negro is granted his citizenship rights. The whirlwinds of revolts will continue to shake the foundations of our nation until the bright days of justice emerge. And that is something that I must say to my people who stand on the worn thresholds which leads to the palace of justice. In the process of gaining our rightful place, we must not be guilty of wrongful deeds. Let us not seek to satisfy our thirst for freedom by drinking from the cup of bitterness and hatred. We must forever conduct our struggle on the high plane of dignity and discipline. We must not allow our creative protests to degenerate into physical violence. Again and again, we must rise to the majestic heights of meeting physical force with soul force. The marvelous new militancy which has engulfed the Negro community must not lead us to distrust all white people, for many of our white brothers, as evidenced by their presence here today, have come to realize that their destiny is tied with our destiny. They have come to realize that their freedom is inextricably bound to our freedom. We cannot walk alone. And as we walk, we must make the pledge that we shall always march ahead. We cannot turn back. There are those who are asking the devotees of civil rights, when will you be satisfied? We can never be satisfied as long as the Negro is victim of unspeakable horrors of police brutalities. We can never be satisfied as long as our bodies, heavy with the fatigue of travel, cannot gain lodging in the motels of the highways or the hotels of the cities. We can never be satisfied as long as the Negro's basic mobility is from a smaller ghetto to a larger ghetto, We can never be satisfied as long as our children are stripped of their selfhood and robbed of their dignities by signs stating for whites only. We cannot be satisfied as long as the Negro in Mississippi cannot vote and the Negro in New York believes he has nothing for which to vote. No, we are not satisfied, and we will not be satisfied until justice rolls down like waters and righteousness like a mighty stream. I am not unmindful that some of you have come here out of great trial and tribulation. Some of you have come fresh from the narrow jail cells. Some of you have come from areas where your quest for freedom left you battered by the storms of persecution and staggered by the winds of police brutality. You have been the veterans of creative sufferings. Continue to work with the faith that unearned suffering is redemptive. Go back to Mississippi. Go back to Alabama. Go back to South Carolina. Go back to Georgia. Go back to Louisiana. Go back to the slums and the ghettos of our northern cities, knowing that somehow this situation can and will be changed. Let us not wallow in the valley of despair. I say to you today, my friends, even though we face the difficulties of today and tomorrow, I still have a dream. It is a dream deeply rooted in the American dream. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up, live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men were created equal. I have a dream that one day the red hills of Georgia, sons of former slaves and the sons of slave owners, will be able to sit down together at a table of brotherhood. I have a dream that one day even the state of Mississippi, a state sweltering in the heat of injustice, sweltering in the heat of oppression, will be transformed into an oasis of freedom and injustice. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day, down in Alabama, with this vicious racist, with its governor having lips dripping with words of interposition and nullification, one day right there in Alabama, little black boys and little black girls will be able to join hands with little white boys and little white girls as sisters and brothers. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted, every hill and mountain shall be made low, the rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight. And the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh we will be able to hew out the mountain of despair, a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day. This will be the day when all God's children will be able to sing the song with a new meaning. My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty, of thee I sing. Land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride. From every mountainside, let freedom ring. And if America is to be a great nation, this must become true. So let freedom ring from the prodigious hilltops of New Hampshire. Let freedom ring from the mighty mountains of New York. Let freedom ring from the heightening Alleghanies of Pennsylvania. Let freedom ring from the snow-capped Rockies of Colorado. Let freedom ring from the curvaceous slope of California. But not only that, let freedom ring from Stone Mountain of Georgia. Let freedom ring from Lookout Mountain of Tennessee. Let freedom ring from every hill and molehill of Mississippi, from every mountainside. Let freedom ring. And when that happens, when we allow freedom to ring, when we let it ring from every city and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all God's children, black men and white men, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing the words of the old Negro spiritual. Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last. Falcons!
Negro, stop recording. Stop Hey, we thought about the second. Damn. I don't know about you. I'm grateful. The doctor can't look at us. We're living in it right now. Stand on your feet, stand on your feet. Tomorrow we'll be hosting the boys basketball tournament right here at Skyline, kicking off at 9 o'clock. Our boys are second seed in the tournament, and they'll be playing at 12:45, but the games will kick off at 9 o'clock. So if you want to see the boys play, you want to come to Skyline, and they'll be playing at 12:45, but it kicks off at 9. Now, I want to recognize one more team, and I am very proud of this team. It's one of the smallest groups that we have, but they are the most powerful. They can set up the gym. I don't have to worry about anything. I mean, they do an excellent job. If we have to give a team trophy away, it will go to this team. And so I want everybody from the wrestling team to stand up. Wrestling team, stand up. We are so proud of you. You did a great job. And a lot of our wrestlers come in the tournament last week. They came in third place, but I think 2 of them came in first place. Where's Samuel? Where's Samuel? Samuel, stand to your feet. Where's Samuel? Where's Samuel? Samuel, right there. Give him a hand. He came in first place. That means all the matches that he had, he didn't lose one. He was a beast. And then the last one, another one came in first place. Where's Rashad? Where is he at? Oh, right there. Mr. Parham is up east, boy. And so I am so proud of everyone to make sure.
Freedom's ignition was fueled by blood, sweat and tears. Well, that was the easy part. Generation stars, so the next fade. Souls sent to slumber without the mercy of a deathbed. Yeah, I know. What an odd way to kick off a celebration. I'm not quite sure Reagan had this in mind when he signed that legislation. But what the heck? In my extended family, there's no celebration without a little bit of tension. So we all cops today. And besides, MLK speech recitals over and over, it kind of robs the day. So let's take a break from the mundane and start with some order. I Have a Dream was beyond eloquent wording. It was marching orders, a rundown of the necessary. More significant than, hey, here's a cool list of some black people on this day and in February. We've grown satisfied, lulled to sleep by a false sense of equality, with sayings like, oh, that was so long ago. Or, can I touch your hair? Or, you know I've always wanted a black baby. Or my personal favorite. Oh, I don't see color. Well, how? What's wrong with your retinas? I'm black. So you seeing me, that was a part of the dream. And you saying that, I'm starting to think that you're a part of the scheme to wipe me out. They'd rather censor this than make sense of this. Slavery's still alive. They're just calling it prison sentences. There I go, playing the victim. Please excuse me, since peace for all peoples was unmerited. As if that Confederate flag your buddy flies is really for Southern heritage. If they can fly it, I can talk about it, I'm just saying. How we care today will inform you tomorrow. You got a part. Use it for more than just pumping blood. Produce love. That 4-letter word that shakes the cosmos. Love. Love is a beautiful language. And I Have a Dream was love for, you can do this with your eyes first. It's that easy. So Dr. King, aye aye Captain, 10-4. Marching orders received. And we'll fight this good fight until the dream is not only believed, but achieved. Thank you. The last piece I'm going to share with you all is, again, by Maya Angelou. And it's entitled Still I Rise. You may write me down in history with your bitter, twisted lies. You may try me in the very dirt, but still, like dust, I rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Why are you beset with gloom? 'Cause I walk like I've got oil wells pumping in my living room. Just like moons and like suns, with the certainty of the tides. Just like hope springing high, still I rise. Did you want to see me broken? Bowed head and lowered eyes, shoulders falling down like teardrops, weakened by my soulful cries. Does my haughtiness offend you? Do you take it awful hard? 'Cause I laugh like I've got gold mines digging in my own backyard. You may shoot me with your words. You may cut me with your eyes. You may kill me with your hatefulness, but still like air I rise. Does my sassiness upset you? Does it come as a surprise? That I dance like I've got diamonds at the meeting of my thighs. Out of the huts of history's shame, I rise. Up from a past that's rooted in pain, I rise. I'm a black ocean, leaping and wide, welling and swelling, I bear in the tide. Leaving behind nights of terror and fear, I rise. Into a daybreak that's wondrously clear, I rise. Bringing the gifts that my ancestors gave, I am the dream and the hope of the slave. I rise, I rise, I rise. Thank you.
I know.
Mr. Cohart put some bar. Yeah, that was powerful. And Singing Powerful by Alicia Keys and Juicy are very on Sky, Mr. Driver.
What time is it? I got a freaking.
So many places land. This is the world for change.
Malcolm's probably turning in his grave.
Every shade was beautiful
And powerful. There's so much strength in you and me. Powerful. Drive the way for victory. I matter, you matter, we matter. I matter, you matter, we matter.
I see a colorful future. People can find you now. And stars are the only thing shoot it. Whoa.
241.
How can we sit there and hide? Change comes when our chickens stand up. Stand up, stand up.
For the rest of
Marching speech still echoes in my brain.
Every shade was beautiful.
Strength in you and me. Powerful. I've the way for victory. No matter, we matter. I matter, you matter, we matter. Powerful. We're powerful.
There's so much strength in you and me. Powerful. I break away from victory. I matter, you matter, we matter.
Somebody's talking.
You matter, we matter.
Give it up to Scott!
That was so out of tune. That was out of tune.
Just in 2 minutes.
Well, give it up again for Mr. Driver. And your very own Sky. Wow.
Bye,
Guys, you did a great job today, but before we leave, we're going to get ready to dismiss, and I want you to pay attention. I want everybody to give a round of applause to